Hello there, and welcome to the weekly Outside Views report on the politics in Asia and Oceania. Japan freezes the assets of other Russian individuals and organizations because of Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. As the Japanese news agency Kyodo reported on Friday, citing the government in Tokyo, this affects 36 people and 52 organizations, including Russian politicians, officers, businessmen, and companies. In addition to freezing funds, the additional sanctions also include export bans. Since Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine began, Japan has consistently imposed economic sanctions on Moscow in line with Western policies. The assets of Russian President Vladimir Putin, the central bank, and Belarusian ruler Alexander Lukashenko were also frozen. According to a media report, the authorities in the North Korean capital Pyongyang have imposed a 5-day lockdown. The city's residents had to remain in their homes until the end of Sunday and underwent temperature checks several times a day. That's what Seoul-based news website NK News reported on Wednesday, citing a government notice. According to the report, more and more cases of a respiratory disease have occurred in the past few days. Thailand will start construction of the 290 billion baht aviation city of Utapao earlier this year. That's what a government spokesman said on Friday. The project will create 15,600 additional jobs in the first 5 years and fuel the growth of Thailand's aviation industry, as Tipanan Sirishana said in a statement. The investment plan envisages turning the Utapao airport, which dates back to the Vietnam War, into a new international airport connecting to a budget terminal, Dong Muang Airport, and the main Suvarnabhumi Airport. The public-private project in Thailand's industrial east will cover an area of 1,040 hectares and is expected to attract tourists, as Tipanan said. The project, called Eastern Aviation City, will also include a freight-free trade zone, an aviation training center, and facilities for aircraft maintenance, repair, and overhaul, according to a government website. Japan and the Netherlands will join the United States in soon imposing export checks on semiconductor manufacturing equipment to China. That's what Bloomberg News reported on Friday. The trilateral talks are expected to conclude as early as Friday US time, the report said, citing people familiar with the matter. The Netherlands would extend restrictions on ASML Holding NV to prevent the sale of machines crucial to making certain types of advanced chips, as Bloomberg's reported. Japan would impose similar restrictions on Nikon Corporation, it said. Fiji's president on Friday suspended the chief police after general elections marked the first change of government in the Pacific island nation in 16 years, after the military warned of far-reaching changes. President Ratu Viliame Katonivere announced that Police Commissioner Sitiveni Kilio was suspended on the advice of the Constitutional Bodies Commission pending investigation and referral to a court and appointment. Election Chief Mohamed Sanim has also been suspended from the commission, the statement said. Kilio declined to comment to local media because he said he would face a court hearing over his conduct. He was believed to be close to former Prime Minister Frank Bainimarama, who ruled Fiji for 16 years before a coalition of parties narrowly won December's election and placed Sitiveni Rabuka at the helm of the strategically important Pacific nation. The day before the coalition agreement was reached, Kilio and Bainimarama called on the military to maintain law and order, saying the uneven election results sparked ethnic tensions, a claim denied by the coalition parties. The Pacific island nation, which has a history of military coups, is playing a central role in the region's response to competition between China and the United States, and struck a deal with Australia in October for greater defense cooperation. On Thursday, the Fiji Times reported that Rabuka said his government would end a deal with China on police officer training and exchanges. The commander of the armed forces of the Republic of Fiji, Major General Jone Kaluniwai, earlier this month warned the Rabuka government against far-reaching changes and insisted that it abide by the 2013 constitution, which gives the military a key role. Chinese President Xi Jinping said on Thursday relations with Australia are moving in the right direction. This is the latest sign of improving relations between the two major trading partners. Xi delivered a congratulatory message on Australia Day to Australia's Governor-General David Hurley. State-run Xinhua news agency reported on this. Australia and China have reviewed the past and looked to the future, actively pursuing the right direction of improving and expanding Sino-Australian relations, is what Xi said, according to Xinhua. After about 3 years of tense relations involving trade, there have recently been signs that relations between the two countries are, you could call it warming up. China imposed unofficial bans on Australian products from coal to wine in 2020 after Australia called for an investigation into the origin of COVID-19 and imposed a ban on 5G networks for Chinese telecoms giant Huawei. Their trade ministers have not met since, but Australian Foreign Secretary Penny Wong met her Chinese counterpart Wang Yi last month during the first visit by an Australian minister in Beijing since 2019. Chinese President Xi Jinping met Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese on the sidelines of a G20 summit in Indonesia in November, signaling the beginning of a thaw. In January, China gave select companies permission to resume importing Australian coal. Last week, Xinhua reported that Chinese Commerce Minister Wang Wentao will meet his Australian counterpart Don Farrell via video in the near future, but no date was given. The armed forces of South and North Korea illegally sent drones into each other's countries in December 22, violating the existing 1953 ceasefire agreement. This is the conclusion reached by a team of special investigators from the Military Armistice Commission, the US-led UN command in South Korea said. Since the Korean War from 1950 to 53, the Commission, headed by the United Nations Command, has been tasked with ensuring that the conditions for a ceasefire negotiated at the time are complied with. At the end of December, according to South Korea, 5 North Korean drones entered South Korean airspace via the demarcation line between the two countries, possibly to take pictures. At the time, South Korea's military launched fighter jets and helicopters to shoot down the unmanned aerial vehicles, but did not succeed. In response to what they call a provocation, South Korea also sent military drones to North Korea. The United Nations Command said that South Korea's attempts to neutralize enemy aircraft were legitimate under the ceasefire agreement. But the use of South Korean drones in North Korean-controlled airspace is also a violation. The disclosure of the investigation sparked fears in South Korea that it could lead to disagreements with the United Nations Command. The Defense Ministry in Seoul described the use of its own drones in North Korea as an act of self-defense. This right cannot be limited by the armistice, they say. North Korea initially did not comment on the allegations made by the US-led UN command. The drone incident had raised questions about the operational readiness of the air defense in South Korea. Tensions on the peninsula had escalated significantly since the beginning of last year. Despite a ban by United Nations resolutions, North Korea has repeatedly tested nuclear-capable missiles, while South Korea and the United States have resumed their full-scale joint military exercises. And this concludes this week's video on politics in Asia and Oceania, but tomorrow will be the next topic. I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.